A teenage girl was assaulted on a plane ride, which is super sad and crazy. But I know a lot of us will be traveling this season. So let's talk about some tips and things we can do to keep our loved ones out of that situation. I want to welcome you to the channel. Welcome back, friends, frenemies. Glad that you're here. This is the place where we apply logic and conviction to news, politics, articles that grab my attention, and whatever else we need to talk about. I'm C. Scott, and this is my view. So what's up, everybody? Like I said, we want to talk about a terrible situation that happened some months ago, almost a year ago, where a young teenage girl was actually assaulted on a plane ride. And so we also want to look at, what we can do to keep our family, our loved ones out of this situation. A lot of times when I see different things in the news, whether it's a shooting, this type of situation or that, I try and study the situation so I can find out and figure out what happened well in that situation, what went wrong in that situation. And then I just try and use my imagination so that if I'm ever in that situation, I can do the best that I can to have the best result that I can get. So the article is linked below, but I'll give you the Cliff Note version. Definitely take a moment to read it later. A family with young kids were on a flight. There was a mom and 3 children. There was a teenage boy, teenage girl, and I think like a 5-year-old child and the mom. And so the 4 of them were traveling together, but for whatever reason, 2 of them were sitting in one place and 2 were sitting in another place on this plane ride. Unfortunately, there was a drunk passenger who was sitting next to the teenage girl and the teenage boy, and this drunk passenger put his hands on this teenage girl, which is a terrible thing that should never happen, and we should do everything that we can to not let it happen. But unfortunately it did. When I was looking at this, looking for this article and looking at this situation, there were actually several other articles that came up that talked about people being assaulted on a plane ride. And at first I was like, who assaults somebody on a plane ride? That's like a pretty public place. How can that happen? What's going on here? What happened? But obviously it's something that happens, and I have children and a wife, and I would never want anything like that to happen to them, and I would never want anything like that to happen to you or yours. So we're going to talk about this, some practical ideas that we can keep in our minds to help keep us safe while we're traveling this season and for the rest of our lives. Merry Christmas. Just a few days away from Christmas as we have this recording, or as I'm making this recording. So I hope you have great plans, great times coming up. But as we get ready to travel, we definitely want to be safe. So in the article, what you'll find out is the mom decided to sit with the youngest passenger, and I guess they were 2 or 3. It sounds like they were 3 or 4 rows away from where the teenage boy and the teenage girl were. It turns out the passenger got onto the plane already drunk, had several drinks from what they're saying, allegedly, from the airport bar. Then he got on the plane and they started serving him more drinks, and it's just a terrible situation. So there's the drunk passenger sitting on the aisle seat, and then there was the girl and the boy sitting next to him. And apparently the young lady took a blanket out. She was resting, flying. Oftentimes it's cold on the plane, and apparently he slipped his hand up under the blanket and touched her in those inappropriate places. And for a stranger, any place is an inappropriate place. Can I get an amen? Yes, I can. So this happened, and apparently the young girl was too afraid to get up and say something. They didn't talk about the boy in the article. Not sure how much he knew at the time that things were going on, but he didn't do anything about it. And the situation was actually brought to an end when the drunk passenger flirted or made some advances or did something toward another 13-year-old girl who I guess was maybe across from him. The mother of that girl told the flight attendants or whatever, that he needed to be moved or something was going on, and they finally moved the drunk guy to the back of the plane. The mom of the girl we're talking about didn't find out anything happened until their flight was over. So unfortunately, the girl just endured all of this, and all these things happened, and she didn't get any help at the time. Thankfully, based on being in a plane and the situation they were in, things could only go so far, but that's way too far. It's not something we want our young ladies to have to deal with. So again, I just want to look at a few things that we can do if we're in that situation. I've been in a situation where we're traveling, whether it's just my wife and I, which doesn't happen much anymore, or if I'm traveling with my kids, be it my sons or my daughter. I don't want them to be in that situation. So we're just going to look at some things that we can do, because apparently the mom didn't know this. A lot of it is, stuff that maybe most people already know, but she didn't know, or she didn't think to act in this way. And I didn't think that things would go this far, even though we've taken some precautions when we travel with our kids. So the first thing I want to look at is under the category of avoidance. If we can avoid any situation, it's way better than having to deal with a situation. So let's just go through and look at a few things that we can do. First thing that we can do is when you find out that you're not sitting together and you're checking in online or something like that, if you have an opportunity to change your seats where you're all sitting together, do that. Take the opportunity to switch those seats right then, and you can limit how many people you have next to you or where people are going to sit, things like that. If you get to the airport, sometimes they don't let you move the seats around where you want to without paying more money or something like that. When you get to the gate, there's a gate agent there. They're usually ticking around on the computer before it's time to board and things like that. Go up to that gate agent. Let them know that you're traveling with your children and ask them if they can move seats around so you all can be together. Most of the time that I've flown, it hasn't been a problem, hasn't been an issue. There was once or twice, and we'll see what to do when that happens. So you just ask them to change the seats around so your family can sit together. Most of the time, they'll oblige. And if you need to, you can be insistent, really, push them. Hey, there's this article about, people are getting overserved alcohol and assaulting passengers. I don't want my family in that situation. Would you please sit us together? Do what you need to do at that point. If they don't, you go to the next thing. And it was 3 asks that we're going to make. You want to ask the gate agent. If that doesn't work, you get on the plane, ask the stewardess or flight attendant or whatever that's there if they can move the seats around. If that doesn't work or it's taking too long, just go directly to the people that are sitting where you want to sit and ask them if they can change seats. So if you have one set of family in one area and another set, you can ask the people around both areas, right? So if your kids are over there, some of your kids are over there and you're over here, you can ask the people that are sitting around the kids over here, or you can ask the people that are sitting around wherever you are. And you basically want to be connected to where your kids are. Ideally, you will be 1 row behind them, 1 row in front of them, or directly across from them. If none of those work out, the 4th and 5th option would be the row in front across from them and the row behind across from them, if that doesn't work. But that also gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of people on each section that you can talk to and peel from. Most people will oblige, especially if they're traveling by themselves. If you can change somebody's window seat for your aisle seat, that's usually good. It's a little bit harder to get somebody to go from an aisle seat or a window seat to a middle seat, but you need to ask because this is where your family is. And there's one of the things that you can do to keep them safe. So the first thing we want to do is avoid the situation, avoid sitting near weirdos and strangers, and do what you can to change the seats around. The next thing you can do, if your asking doesn't work, is you're going to have to decide who's going to sit where. So it doesn't matter whose name is on the ticket and it says, this and that. The seats that are on your family's tickets are your seats. And so you need to look around in those areas and find out if it's better for your young people to sit in this row or that row, even if you have to change the seating arrangement in the seats that are assigned to you all. Maybe it says the kids sit over here in row 18, but those people look a little quirky over there. So you go sit in 18 and have them sit in whatever other place you're supposed to be. Now is the time you have to do something that most people say is a bad thing, but it's also something that most of us do every day and we should do, and that's profile. You got to profile. You're going on a plane. You want your children to be in the most safe position possible, and so you just have to profile. You need to look at who's sitting here, who's sitting there. You typically want to try and match up sexes or genders, and so you want your young lady to sit next to another lady if possible. So in the situation we read about, it would have been better for the boy to sit in the middle seat next to the drunk young man and let the girl sit on the aisle seat, or let the girl sit in the window seat, and then we wouldn't have heard about this story. So you're profiling, you're looking around, and you want to figure out where's the best place for your young people to sit. Typically, like I said, you want gender to sit next to the same gender, but it's a little bit different. Again, you're profiling. I don't allow my kids to sit next to same-sex people that look homosexual. I know, it is what it is. I said it. But there's a reason you typically send your kids to the bathroom in school with someone who's the same gender, and that's obviously thrown out the window with a homosexual. So you got to look at these people and find out where's the best place. Now, don't get mad at me, send me hate mail or hide my video on YouTube. It is what it is. We want our people to sit in the best situation possible. So get them situated in the best place that they can be, and then we'll go on to part B of what you can do to help keep them safe. So once your kids are where they are and they're doing what they're doing, if they're going to have to sit apart from you, if everybody's on the plane are jerks and nobody wants to rearrange the seating so that you can sit by your family, which could happen, we want to at least be prepared for it, because it's just something that's possible. You want to make sure, especially if you have a feeling or if you're just not sure, and sometimes our radar is off. Sometimes we think and assume that everything is okay, but we're not 100% sure. So there's two things that I want you to do specifically when your kids are going to be sitting away from you. The first thing is that you need to check on them, and you need to time it. It might be every 15 minutes, might be every 30 minutes, but you need to walk up to where their seats are, make eye contact, ask them how things are going. You don't have to be blunt and overt and say, hey, is everything okay? Is anybody bothering you? But you can just ask them questions. Hey, do you have your headphones? Are you cold? Do you want to turn your fan on? You ask them a different question every time you go up. Oh, I'm up going to the bathroom. Do you need anything from your bag? Make up whatever excuse you feel like you need to make up to make it comfortable for you to ask them if everything is okay. And then what you also do before you get on the plane is you have a code word. All right, you have a word that they can use that sounds very normal, but they can tell you when something is wrong. A lot of times when young people are in messed up situations dealing with adults, they don't want to just come right out and say, Mommy, Daddy, this guy is a weirdo or something like that. They don't feel comfortable, so give them a word that they can use that sounds normal in conversation, and tell them that they only use this word if something is going on and they need their seat changed, or if they need something to happen. You may tell them, hey, come go to the bathroom real quick while I'm up, and they can go in the back of the plane and tell you what's going on, and then you can make sure that they're not in that situation. Also, when you're coming up with this word and you're telling your young people, make sure they know it. Like, don't tell them while y'all are walking on the plane and running through the airport and doing 15 other things to where they don't remember what the word is. Make sure they know ahead of time, and this is a word that you can use all the time, whether you're flying or not. But they need to know this word. They need to know how to use it in a sentence so that they can communicate to you. And you have to let them know ahead of time. When you use this word, you won't get in trouble. No matter what they say, nobody next to you knows why we're using this word. If there's a problem and you use this word, I'm not going to make you go back to that situation. We'll make sure that everything is okay. Even if you just feel weird, use this word and we'll get things straightened out and we don't have to worry about it. It's way better to offend a few people and do some things that you don't need to do to make sure that your child is safe than it is to regret the rest of your life not doing more, or to spend the rest of your life having this history, this thing that happened in the past that your young person has to deal with for the rest of their lives. Again, they'll live, they'll manage, they'll be okay, but why deal with that situation if we don't have to? So that's dealing with getting on the plane and doing what we can do while we're there. The other thing that we want to do before that is first thing we want to do is avoid. Next thing we're going to do is train and prepare. We want to prepare our young people for different situations, just as we do as they grow up. We prepare them for, walking across the street and looking both ways. And we teach them about stranger danger. And even though they're older, they might be teenagers and things like that, we need to up and increase and always keep our guard up, because this nonsense has happened. Since it's happened, it's something that we should prepare for. So while you're training and preparing your young people, you want to teach them that there are things to avoid. Things to avoid, like nobody should touch you in any way. They shouldn't put their hand on your hand. Their leg shouldn't be touching your leg. And obviously, none of their parts or private parts should be touched. But we don't really even have to cover that much, because we said nobody should be touching you. So if they're putting their hand on your hand, or they're leaning on you, or doing whatever, that's you having a problem. And depending on the age and the attitude of your child, you can tell them to say something, or again, we use that code word, and then we can go in the back of the plane and we can talk about it, and we can make some decisions there. You also want to pay attention to what the people sitting next to your family members are watching, or what they're listening to. It might be some stuff that you don't let your kids watch. And if they're sitting there with their big laptop screen or tablet screen and whatever is going on, that's inappropriate. So you don't want your kids to be in that situation. So one, that's something that you need to be looking for when you check on them every few minutes, or every 15 to 30 minutes. And then it's also something that they can be on the lookout for. Tell them, if there's stuff that they're showing you, or stuff that you can see that's inappropriate, I need you to tell me. That might be a little bit harder, or something less that kids want to participate in, because sometimes they want to see that stuff. It could be violence, it could be nudity, it could be vulgar language and different things like that. But again, we're trying to protect them, raise them in the best environment possible. So we want to tell them what to look out for. Other general thing that we're going to do based on our story, there was a brother and a sister that were sitting together. When you have sons, and a daughter especially, you want to teach your older children to look out for your younger children, right? Something we do all the time. But again, we have to have our mindset in how do we do this on a plane, because this is the situation that we're putting ourselves in. We might think how we do it out in the world, or how we do it at the park, or how we do it at the mall. But we also want to put in our thinking, what do we do when we travel? How do we do this on a plane? So you want to teach your olders, obviously, to be looking out for the youngers, and how they can do that. We're telling them what to look for, right? If there's something that shouldn't be going on with you, it shouldn't be going on with them. What do you do if you see something that's going on? Again, do you want your young person, your child, to confront the adult and say, hey, stop, scoot over, whatever? Or do you want your young person, like in this situation, the brother was about 2 years. I think the brother was 15 and the sister was 13. The sister was obviously afraid to get up and say something, but the brother could have said, hey, I'm going to go to the bathroom, pretending to go to the bathroom, and he could have talked to the mom on his way back. So you want to teach youngers to look out for, olders to look out for youngers. You also want to teach your young men, your boys, that they need to look out for their sister. Whether the sister is a little bit older or the sister is definitely younger, of course we want them to help out in that situation. Now I know some people might say, oh, that's sexist, we're all the same. Whatever, me and you need to have a different conversation. Don't allow your boys to not look out for your girls. That's a bottom line, period. No kind of discussion. That has to happen. So the last thing in the article talks about the girl was covered up with a blanket. The guy slipped his hand under the blanket, and so other people around weren't able to see, and that's how she kind of got caught up in this situation. So tell your young people, if they're the kind to get a blanket or whatever, if blankets are going to be made available, it'd be very simple that if there is a stranger on the other side of them, tell them to tuck the blanket under their leg and to push it in, on the other side of their shoulder. And that creates a space where you would have to work really hard to get through. That doesn't allow someone to slip their hand on the other side of the blanket without everybody else's knowledge. That's another thing, simple thing that could have been done that would have completely avoided the situation. I don't blame the girl. I don't blame the brother for how they behaved in the situation. We're just looking at the situation saying, this happened. It wasn't good. What could we do if this situation happened again to make it better? So if she tucks the blanket in under her leg, tucks it on this side, and then kind of wraps it around, her brother can help do it on the other side if necessary. But that's another thing that kind of is a way to set up a fence or set an off zone, away zone where somebody isn't able to put their hands on the other side of that blanket and not be seen. The last thing I have for you is just be brave. All right, these are your children. These are your loved ones. These are the people that God put in your life to protect. And so whatever it is that you have to do, whoever it is that you have to talk to, you do that for them so that they don't have to grow up, so our kids, our sons, our daughters don't have to grow up having this scar or this fear or this memory of one time they were doing something that was supposed to be a great event. They were traveling, they were going to do something great, or they were going home and this terrible thing happened. That's all type of messed up stuff to be going in their minds and for them to have to deal with. All right, friends, that's all I have for you today. It's my first non-political video. If you can think of some other things that we need to do, put that in the comments for us below. If you like this video, please hit the like button. Share this video with everybody you know, especially those that'll be traveling this Christmas season, maybe traveling coming up next year. And also think about other ways that you can apply the same things that we talked about to the other situations in your everyday life. Thanks for joining me. I'm C. Scott, and that's how I see it.